It's been a little while since we did this exhibition, and so I think it's fun to get a chance to come back and have a look at it after we've had a chance to sort of reflect, maybe come back with some new ideas. You might remember we did this exhibit called Exquisite Things, which is based on Exquisite Corpse. And briefly what we wanted to do is try and find a way of creating connections that cut across the different collections within the Hofmeister Museum, and try and think of a new strategy for a way that you can make an exhibition which brings together a group of objects, but can represent all the different possibilities of the tangles of objects within museum collections. And when we did this, one of the things we kept trying to think about was how much information should we give about what objects are? What are the actual connections, and what were we thinking at the time? Sometimes we sort of thought like we should put absolutely no information, or we should put all the information. And we kind of came to a bit of a compromise where we have no information in the case and some text in the side of the wall. What did you guys think? What do you think now? You've had a chance to kind of drop by, show your friends maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, so actually I brought a few people over here to check it out, and they were all really into the idea. And I think especially the way we laid it out worked really well, because they were able to engage with it on that first glance and try and make those connections, but then they did refer to the extra panel over here to learn more about the objects themselves if they were interested in it. But everyone thought it was a really fun game to play, and seemed really interested in games like characters.
Did you find that people got it without you explaining it, or did they sort of begin and go kind of like, what? What are these things? What am I supposed to do with it? Like, did they get into the idea of trying to find a way of resolving all the objects in the case?
Yeah, so I think I probably kind of spoiled it a little bit by talking a lot about what we were trying to do before we saw it. So I guess I should have tried experiments where they just encountered it without me giving the background. But yeah, I don't know, Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think what happens is kind of a cool trick that is related to what we were intending. It wasn't exactly that, which is that this actually looks pretty normal. Like, this looks pretty expected. This looks like a case of the Met with little tags, numbers, and the text sort of off to the side, like a very respectful kind of art exhibit. And the pieces, even though we chose them to be kind of all over the place, they actually seem to hold together pretty well. You know, I mean, it doesn't strike you with how all over the place things are. So what's kind of interesting is when you then take a little bit of a closer look and realize that they might not actually hang together as much as you thought they did at first, when you first start thinking about what is this about. And so I think that kind of moment when it opens up to questions is kind of, that's a cool moment. But it doesn't, I think we were all expecting it to just hit you with this, like, whoa, yeah, there are all these totally different objects doing in this case. Yeah. But I think that kind of seeps in a little more subtly. I guess what's cool about that is that it rewards a little deeper engagement with things. You know?
Well, we're lucky we actually have people here who weren't part of actually making the show, so I'm going to ask them to throw in a few cents. Well, no, we'll end with Steve. We have one of the members of the student Hofmeister board here. Have you had a chance to have a look at the exhibit?
No, I've come by a couple of times, read the plaque. I certainly haven't spent the kind of time with it that I would have liked, but it's it really is, I think it's fascinating. The way, actually, like you were saying, it took me a while to realize that they weren't supposed to be a continuous, set of objects, that there wasn't a unifying theme in the sense that museums like to have. But certainly there are, I think it was a good job of integrating very different parts of the collection in a way that is, both visually pleasing and, is rewarding on an intellectual level. Okay.
Well, we have another one of the students involved, Rebecca, who just sort of don't put you on the spot. We're just talking about some of the things. It's been a while since we've had a chance to obviously see each other and think about the exhibit. But just trying to pull back some of the thoughts that were going through our heads at the time, and maybe what we think now. Are we as happy with how clever we thought we were? Do we feel like we've actually
how clever we thought we were?
No, but like, have we achieved the ambitions that we set out to achieve. How might we do this differently if we were to do it now?
Very pressured.
I know, it's hard because it's never so. Forget this again.
Well, no, I don't think I would do that much of it. I'm really surprised it all fit in one case and in a line. I wasn't sure that was going to happen, so that's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
I would like to know more about like the feedback of how people, maybe we have some data on that, or we're getting it now, I don't know. But like, how did people attract that? I overheard what you were saying about how you didn't know at first it wasn't order. So that's, I just would like to hear how people ended up coming and how they pieced together the experience.
I noticed a lot of people when they came in, like, initially we thought, right, they would come in and be like, oh, what's going on? What is in the case? And they actually would walk over and immediately go straight to the labels inside. In fact, they read it counter to what we would have assumed. Like we made an assumption which was like left to right. That's probably what people are going to do, even just given the way they come down the steps. We thought we could down. And anyone interested, not anyone, many people would actually go to what looked like the answers, as it were, and then would work backwards. Which I know was a concern that we had, but that was interesting because it kind of went counter to what we would have assumed to be the basic initial behavioral sort of response to it.
Yeah, I guess we had expected that to be the intro text, and I guess being behind the case,
it's tricky.
people didn't automatically jump to that.
It does. When watching people, I observed and then sort of have taken as wisdom and have since repeated many times the idea that people just, if there's a cool object, they'll go to it. And then if they want to know what it's about, they look at the text. But maybe there's something else at work there. Either these aren't exciting enough looking because they're sort of dark, or people really want a so what, first and foremost. Maybe it has to do with the audience.
It's tricky. It's also the context. We're in a university, so it's actually we can assume a certain context or a certain type of engagement that people want to be expecting to have a visitor who's going to come, which might be, this might be engaged with very differently if it was in what may be a more public museum, maybe. So that was interesting. We have had interaction online. I didn't check yesterday, but before the break, we had at least like 340 people accessing it, and maybe about 50 people actually putting their connections online on the clouds.
Do you know if it was from this IP address?
I don't know if it's, I can't get that IP address, so I don't know if it's from that computer. People have done it in Brown, so maybe one or two people have. I know that a few people have done it on their phones, so that was satisfying, at least to know that the mobile phone component worked. So that's interesting. Steve, do you have any opinions, feelings now?
Oh, I sort of knew the gimmick, so I'm not sure I'm quite an unbiased observer. My guess is that one of the things that museum people do and students do is assume that everyone's looking for a grand theory. People walk up to things, they look at it, and they walk away. And sometimes they look at the label, sometimes they won't. The assumption is that these are all related somehow, but my fear in looking at them now is that what we may have done is reinforce this notion of there's the exotic and they're all the same, we just stick them all in a case and we've got a bunch of exotic stuff in here, and that's what museums do. And that's, it's mostly sort of Brown stuff from
it's Brown.
So, so it's not, my fear is that in fact, by being so clever, we've opened ourselves up to being read as being not clever at all. So it may just be exotic stuff from around the world. I still find it sort of fascinating and on an intellectual level just really quite wonderful, the notion that there's a different connection between every pair of objects in there. But I am not certain that people read labels enough to get that.
But the fact that people do go to the text, it may be a different crowd here. It is not only assuming that there's going to be some kind of theme, but maybe also assuming that whoever put this on is probably some kind of student group who's trying to be clever about something.
Right.
What is this project? You know, give me the what's your deal? You know,
What's the hypothesis?
yeah.
We really need to do some testing. I mean, that's at one stage in this process we were very close to saying we needed to interview people and try different methods and change out the numbers for the labels,
Yeah.
you know, all that, and that still seems like a useful thing to do.
Yeah.
So
If the case wasn't quite so closed,
there is that.
that would be. But it needs to be
But
closed.
it's right. But it would still be a useful thing, even if you just interviewed people when they walk by. Because we're speculating a lot here, and that's always more fun than actually talking to people. But it would be worth talking to people.
They're like isomorphic things.
I know that. So what you said of trying to set it up so that people would go left to right may actually. I think that ties in pretty well with the fact that people have been going to the text first, because I know when I walk down, the text is on such a bright white panel. I start left to right, and visually it's things that are brown on this brown wall until I hit the thing that's different from all the other things, and that's what I'm going to look at. I mean, visually, in terms of my initial reaction, the wall of text is the most striking thing here.
That was, I mean, in our initial mock-ups, it was to have symmetrical, as in it were like another vertical piece on the other side, and just compromise is always the necessary process of realizing anything. And so we ended up going with this solution. But it's interesting, you're right, it's the first major moment of contrast, except perhaps maybe the debate I thought. But, well, perhaps we should try to take our project to stage 2, and which is why we're probably here. Which is we've thought a lot about what we think all the connections are, and we play around with different ways of mapping that. And one of the things I thought we could probably try to do is try to actually layer our own interpretations on that and make that part of the exhibition for a little while. So I have a bunch of chalk markers. Chalk markers are what people use to write on glass in cafes or anywhere, but so you can write text on glass. And it's pretty striking and pretty visible. And I brought a couple different colors, so I figured people want to.
Should we? Are these going to be out or part of any kind of? Should we hold back, or should we just cover the whole thing, or what?
Well, I think we'll do it iteratively. Like we'll start off. We'll just we'll play and we'll talk through it. But if people want to just grab one and you can hold on to one and get feel like you're empowered.
I kind of like to see what you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's have someone else go first.
Do you want to? Maybe
Or do you want orange?
Though it'll be interesting to see when the text is actually directly in front of the objects.
Yeah.
If people still want to go to the text, does that mean they have to look at the objects at the same time?
Yeah.
White does not come out as well from here.
white on
Coming
white.
down the stairs and seeing on the white.
Yeah. We'll do
Is in front of it. Yeah.
a bit different. Go for it.
Oh, please. I
Have a
mean,
go.
just drawing parallels between these things.
Yeah, as you like. What do you? You're a prize now because you haven't spent time with it. All you need to know is that each object was chosen based only on the object previous to it.
In series or
So Terry Jantis chose this one, the ball, and Jantis Valencini chose this
based on
one.
one another?
Yeah.
But
However you feel like responding.
I mean, the first thing that I've always seen from this is it's faded, but there is definitely some color overlap between these two, which is interesting. On a dark base, you've got circles of white and that pink and the bluish color. So. I guess color and the circles, color and the pattern. Take turns?
Oh.
Yes.
This one. I thought so much about those because my object's down there. But just looking at these, it's like this is a big cylinder and that's many cylinders.
I didn't hear.
Yeah.
Back in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if this will work. I want to do something where you can look through it a certain way. I think someone else can.
I just remember
It's going to take me a second.
Oh, take time.
So while you're thinking on a utilitarian level, the ladle and the fish hook are both for food production, consumption.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Oh, I get it.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
That's good.
Let's see.
It's looking like Christmas.
Doesn't come on.
Started it. No, of course not.
It's not pretty. Oh yeah.
Come on, yellow.
I'm just trying to think about it in a different way than I did before.
I know.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to do. Oh, I didn't see that.
Well, you can reinforce it in yellow,
Yes.
because it doesn't show up very well in the same color. Well, you can add to the face, sort of another.
And actually, if we're marking out domes, the second mask and the ladle, actually, too, could go in there.
Oh.
Yeah, go for it. Draw a line.
These are both interpretations of human figures.
Right.
What
So it's just.
Sam?
What is your big, your circle and oval?
Oh, it's like sort of zooming, like a.
Oh.
It's a small, sort of a small.
Oh,
room
exactly.
in shape. It's one of those like diagram things. I just didn't do very well. You know.
Oh, I think so too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh. Do you want to do a little ornamentation for me? Like
A little
mine?
what? Curve?
Yeah, well, that's a C and that's an S. Well, that's both.
Oh, you mean it?
Because like the ladle and the hook.
Yeah, you could. Well. Yeah, you got it.
Oh, I can do it underneath.
Yeah, like an underline. Yeah. Nice.
I didn't want to go too full rococo.
Okay.
big chance to run everything. Can I put a big arrow and say progress across the top of the box, right?
Sure.
That's why everyone reads in these things, you know. It might be the wrong thing to say.
Right.
Truth.
Truth.
Is there any?
These two are the ones that really.
Yeah.
This has no connection here.
7 and 8.
7 and 8.
Huh?
7 and 8.
And?
What are 7 and 8?
Well,
I don't.
We're going.
I know
15.
she, well, my crystal shows it.
Which was
Well, Amber shows the doll.
Amber shows the
Connection with
doll.
based on.
Because, well, she thought, sorry, Crystal thought, because there used to be charms inside the charm box. So Brooke reminded her of that. Oh, but they were both from water, right? Because wasn't the...
Yeah, but that's the hook to the charm box. I don't think there's a connection between the charm box and the doll.
Oh, 7
Oh, there
and 8.
is, but I just don't
I'm
remember
sorry.
what it
I'm
is
getting
now.
my numbers wrong. I can't. That's my thing. Sorry.
Magic.
Yeah, it's interesting to think what you see if you see from this side. Underneath. Big noses. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah. Yeah, those two have those. I think maybe, yeah.
I'm like just
Must have. Oh, interesting. That's interesting.
Ian, are you going to leave the markers out for people to use?
Probably not.
No.
No, what?
Oh,
Go for it.
I'll go with the straight curatorial.
Yeah, that's everybody.
Works really well, doesn't it?
We're maybe do that next.
Oh, very good. Right, they don't roll.
Right. So I'm just going to let them
Very nice.
go.
That's 8 and 4.
4 and 8. Oh, also. Where's it?
Sorry, that's my last time.
Yes, does the brown.
Yeah, I was good. I was trying to figure out a way to do that.
Did I have to call Brown Daily Herald because somebody has the face that
Yeah.
African. But you know that though, right?
I do, but I can read those.
I know. It's true, but I always been like, whoa.
Anything else?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's go, yeah. Take another picture. You go, oh yeah.
Yeah.
What color is the best? Yellow is the best. Is yellow the best?
Yellow does show up the best.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to rewrite it.
Just like
Looks like the iteration.
So he said that sometime possibly Tuesday.
I'm just going to redo it.
Watching it.
It's also to show them that it actually comes off.
The only person I've seen so far moving through there is the
Although now it's pretty self-explanatory what all this stuff is.
Yeah, absolutely. Walk up to me and say, I understand the nature of the world.
Isn't that what the mission of the Hofstra is?
Yeah, absolutely.
The nature of the world?
Yeah. Or at least ground things in the world.
Yeah.
I've got to run, folks.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
I think that's our new mission statement. Is it revealing it all?
Showing it all off. So do you actually need that anymore? You don't really
No,
have
I
it?
don't think so. I dig the...
Oh, no, I think...
Now you're trying to find the connection. First is what are all these words?
Yeah.
Ah, right. They're all connections. Now they connect.
John Madden's museum.
Yeah. But what's the picture? I like the picture. It's like a robot?
Oh, it's just sort of like you can look through it and
Yeah.
it sort of shows you the connection between them. It makes that sort of
Makes that look like this.
yeah, exactly.
We all have eyes.
On the Bailey doll.
Yeah.
His eyes are like
Oh, yeah.
like little.
Oh, yeah.
There's always an eye on the hook.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's great.
Isn't there a face on the ladle too?
Yeah. Little eyes.
Yeah. And do one on the hook.
On the hook?
Because the hook has an eye.
Oh, that's true.
So is it only the camera?
I'm sure it has eyes. Oh, it has eyes. There's a face there.
Oh, you're right.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, everything has eyes.
Everything have eyes?
Where are these ones? Just like a little. Oh, right on top.
That is so cool.
That's bonkers. Didn't even notice that.
You never noticed that.
Actually, the students will have eyes.
Yeah.
That's what we should have called it. I think.
You always have that?
Eyes.
The eyes.
Yeah, that.
Eyes of the world. People just gravitate to places like fingers.
Yeah.
Apparently our group did. Except for you.
Well, right, but
With the pun.
with the pun, it brings it together. I love that.
You know the African. Cool. Always being clever.
Am I way off?
Nope. Good.
Just draw attention to it.
Yeah.
That's great. I like that.
It's not a connection, I guess, but it's what makes it different.
Oh, it's not brown.
It's kind of bright and.
Alright, well, so what do we think now? Do you think it's clear now? Do you think it's much clearer now? What's going on?
Well, it makes the objects so much more appealing in a way, because now you have to look through something to look at them. Kind of layer of metadata or something. And
Well, it's like just a totally different way of approaching it. People aren't gonna come up to it the same way they would before. So hopefully they won't try and like read that first. They'll gravitate on.
I think this is definitely going to be the draw now, rather than the wall of text.
Yeah. What's cool is that you know that the writing on the case is not in and of itself meaningful. So you immediately look to what it signifies, not to get off, but you know what I mean. So so it draws attention to the objects in kind of an interesting way by giving you something that needs decoding about them, not that they need decoding in and of themselves.
It's amazing how, depending on how you move, it's like totally off.
Yeah.
what it's actually, what any of the ideas are referring to. Right?
Which is actually another really cool thing, right? Because it actually pulls you around to try to make sense. Yeah.
To actually try to resolve it.
Yeah.
Because the eye just realizes that depending on where you sit, it doesn't, you know.
Oh, when you put them, I see. I didn't even
tried to do them so like in certain places they actually
that's totally fun though, yeah.
match up. So you kind of want to.
That better completely reinforces the curatorial perspective.
Yeah.
You can see it from your direction.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Any last burning comments? We'll leave it and see how people changes anything, see if anybody thinks anything differently. And if you want next week at 1 o'clock, I'm going to do the same sort of thing with a group of students from the class I'm teaching right now that have never seen this. And so just going to throw them at it and go, what do you think? And that should be kind of a fun experiment.
On Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah. Cool. Good work.
Yeah.
That's fun. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good to know.